everybody, and Merry Christmas. Wait a minute. That was 4th of July last week, wasn't it? Yeah. Merry Christmas. We're going to do Christmas in July. I don't do this, but I have friends who are in the retail business. And right now is when they start ordering and getting prepared for Christmas. All of the shows that they go to for the new toys that are coming out for Christmas, those conventions, those marketplaces, they're happening now. They're preparing now for Christmas. So I figured I'd show you a couple of quick and easy designs for making some 3D Christmas ornaments and designing these from scratch in Lightburn. They're very, very easy to do. And if it's not something that you're into, there'll be some advice and design tips that you will probably find useful in your designing. There's a little Christmas tree and a different take on the snowflake. This one's done with the completely enclosed round instead of the open snowflake. But it's snowing. The snow's falling. Get in there. Oh, that'll work for now. Oh, so how's everybody doing? It's hot. It's hot, hot, hot. I see a lot of the regulars here. Appreciate you guys being here. This is an early live stream, 3:00 p.m. for me. Doing it to try to appeal to those across the pond and other parts of the world that aren't always able to tune in for the 9 p.m. for me, which will be next week. So the numbers are a little low, and it's also hot, and it's vacation time. Yep, good to see all the regulars here. I want to address a couple of things before we jump into the Lightburn thing. I don't see Jim here yet. He may be catching it on the replay. Jim's one of my patrons, and he's been having some issues and some problems with a couple of different problems, I should say, in Lightburn. His laser's been doing the work, and then just about midway through the job, it just quits. And I'd suggested to him early on, way back when, that could be he's working with a laptop. I said it could be laptop related. Lightburn, and I say this all the time, and people contradict me. So, I don't have any problem with my laptop. I don't have any problem with my laptop. Well, you're one of the lucky ones, but you will. And I think even with your computers, and I'm not a tech guy. I'll be the first one to tell you I'm not a tech guy, and you should not come to me for tech advice. I can only share with you from my personal experiences what I've learned from my technical failures and issues. But your USBs can go to sleep. Your laptops are more prone to that than some of your computers, because the laptops will do that so that they can conserve battery power. So you go in your power management systems and you can set your USBs to where they never go to sleep. But if you're using a laptop and your USBs are being controlled by your power management system, and after you've sent a job out there and now it's just running when nothing else is going on with your laptop, well, it makes sense that, okay, well, these are not needed right now. We're going to just shut these off. Well, you needed that USB to connect to your laser, and it just shut down, and it lost communications. And now you're stopped mid-job. You can save that job by going back to your preview and finding where that laser quit sending the job at, and click on start from here and pick up on that job right where it went to sleep. And you really didn't lose anything as long as you hadn't touched or moved your part. If everything's been left alone, went to sleep, go back, start from here, send it on. Jim thought he had resolved the issue when he replaced his USB cable. But one of his last messages, he said, I thought that fixed it, But now, after a few weeks of it being no problem, the problem has started up again. So he's now going to look at maybe getting a different switch. I guess he's got his USBs going, and that's another issue, a potential issue. You got those USB hubs that you can go, and probably if you don't have one, you probably need one, because we've got lasers and mice and in my case, cameras and everything else, and USBs everywhere. But, well, if you get and they have powered and non-powered USB hubs, I strongly recommend you getting a powered USB hub, because that can also be a problem. From what I understand, the non-powered, when you plug it into your PC, well, it's now getting power there. But if your PC or your laptop, either one goes to sleep, well, now everything on that that's going to that USB switch is now going. So a powered USB hub is a better way to go. But the problem I see more often than not is almost always laptop related. When you get away from them laptops, all of those gremlins go away. So if you're going to get you a USB hub, get you a powered USB hub. And hopefully that can negate some of them. Make sure your USBs in your power management system are set not to go to sleep, and that might help. But ultimately, it's and I mentioned to you, you're the second person within as many weeks, months that have talked to me about problems with this USBs, or potential USB problems and cable problems. And he also asked me about one other question about how you can. He's got his laser right over here. He's got his computer here, and he's wanting to check his framing. He's got a job up on Lightburn, and he hits his frame button. But by the time he can get over there to go check his job, it's through framing. So he's like, how can I slow it down, or what can I do about getting there before it stops framing? You can do two things. Slow down the framing speed so that the laser is moving much, much slower. But even beyond that, if you get a wireless trackball mouse, and I say a trackball like this because if your mouse ball is down here on the bottom, then what I'm getting ready to suggest is a little bit tricky. The trackball makes it easier. But if you have a wireless trackball mouse, you can have everything ready to go and you're ready to frame it. Move your trackball over the frame button in Lightburn, then pick up your trackball and just walk over to your laser. And once you get there, then click, and it now start framing. You just have to be careful that you don't bump your trackball and you're not shaking it around. But I've done that for 6 months and it worked great whenever I was using another laser on the other side of the room. So, and then to change your mouse speed, it's your move speed in your laser controls. Go over here. In your move tab, your speed right here. Right now, my speed's set at 3,000 millimeters a minute. If you slow that speed down to whatever speed you need it to be, when you hit frame, it's going to move at that speed. So you can slow it down to 100 millimeters a second, and it's just going to creep and crawl. All right. Let's see here. See if anybody's chimed in on any of that. We got 50 of you here now. Let's see here. Jeffrey said, I bought a new computer thinking it was a laptop issue. Turned out not to be the problem, but I did get a really nice computer. Well, Jeff, I'm curious what problem you were having and what was the problem? If it wasn't your laptop, what did you find that resolved your issue? Like Connie, my port was going to sleep. Yeah, your USB ports go to sleep. It'll just stop it dead in its tracks. So go into power management, and that's what a few of you have mentioned here. Yeah, reconfigured the ports. Go in and Chris says laptop power bricks are susceptible to heat. Yep, provide enough power for some components, but not all. Let's see here. Oh yeah, you can also use continuous framing. I didn't even think about that. Continuous framing. Yep. Great minds think alike. Yes, isn't there continuous framing in Lightburn? Yes. I didn't even think about that. So that was y'all's great minds thinking alike. You can also go to device settings and turn on continuous framing. Yep. So Jim, you've just had a whole bunch of suggestions on how to resolve your issue, and hopefully you get whatever is causing yours to go to sleep on you resolved. But let's see here. I've gotten a whole bunch of. I'm for those who are aware, I've got some stuff going on today. I can't just silence my phone anymore. I have to constantly be available, and so I have to check my messages. And I'm sorry. All right. All right. So we're going to talk about 3 basic designs, but what we're going to do in the way that I create those 3D interlocking pieces, and you can do that with just about any shape. But there are some things that we're going to talk about. It's like when I'm designing my parts, it's almost like I'm playing chess, and I'm not a very good chess player. I have been trying to play. I played it when I was in school, and I was okay, but I ain't played chess in a long time. And so I started playing it against the computer, and even on novice, most simplest, easiest way, I ain't beat that computer once yet. But with chess, you need to be thinking not your next move. If you're only thinking about your next move, you've already lost. You need to be thinking 2-3 moves down the road, and you really even need to know your opponent as much as you do, or better, as much as you can. But you got to be thinking 2-3 steps ahead, moves ahead. Well, same thing. I do that when I'm designing, because if you're not trying to think of any of those potential problems and/or roadblocks down the road, well, it could screw up your entire design, and you got to start all over again. So while we're going to be talking about some really simple shapes and simple designs, some of the tips that you might be saying, oh, you know what? That is something good to keep in the back of your head. So what we're going to start with is we'll start with just this one here, which is just a basic snowflake and 2 pieces interlocking. But I'm going to, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to design one so that it will fail. I'm going to design one incorrectly so you can see what those headaches and roadblocks are. So let's jump over here to Lightburn. All righty. So the first thing I think about is what size is my material and how many pieces am I going to want to get out of my material. And even though I've now got the Lasermatic XW and I can use larger material, I'm still designing a lot of my pieces based on the idea that most folks are using a 300 by 300 piece of material. So if I've got a 300 millimeter square piece of material, then I know that's my material size. How many pieces can I get out of it? Maximizing all of my material and minimizing my waste. Then from there, I'm also trying to think about all the potential stumbling blocks and roadblocks within that design. And like this piece, I'm intentionally going to design it so that it has the stumbling block in it. So you're like, oh, okay, now I see what you're talking about. So I'm going to design this snowflake, and I'm going to start with, and since this one is not going to be in a full circle, it's just going to be the snowflake only. It's only going to consist of lines. So I'm going to draw a straight line, and I need to select that one and put it on. I'm going to put it on the black path, make it easier to see. And this is going to be the height of my snowflake. How tall do I want this snowflake to be? Well, how many pieces do I want to get out of this material right here? If I want to try and get at least 9 individual pieces at a 300 millimeter material, then I need to be at 100 millimeters or less to get 3 full pieces out of it. So we'll go 90 millimeters. Now I'm getting one there, and one there. And also one across, get 3 across. So I've got 190 millimeter straight line. I'm going to take that and I'm going to do my circular array 3 times, not 6 times, but 3 times, and say okay. So if that's 90 millimeters, halfway down is 45 millimeters. And in fact, you can do this if you're good with math, you don't need to do this. But if you're not really great with math, you turn this on and go to node editing and come right here anywhere on this line and just hit the letter M. That's going to put a node right there in the middle. Hit the letter, let's see, we'll go M again and put it right there and there and there. And one more here and here. There we go. And I can delete that. And so I'm not even having to do any math. I'm just putting nodes in and then deleting the ones I don't want. So now that should be close to equal distances, close. Or this right there with that node in the middle, that's telling me that was 90. It's 45 millimeters. So if I use my ruler and look, it's 45 millimeters long. Half of that is what, 22.5. But I want to do a third of that. And the reason math is important is we're designing a crystal, and crystals are very geometric. Their shape is very precise geometry. In order to pull off the symmetry we want to have with the snowflake, the math is important. And I'm struggling today, and today's been a hot day, but we're going to get through this. Instead of doing all the math, I'll do a square. I'm going to draw out just a square. Right now, I don't know what size. And I'm going to put this in line mode. And if that was 45 millimeters, half of that, actually, we're going to do it in thirds. So I'm going to come up here and just say 45 divided by 3. Now that's 1/3. So if I come over here and drag that to the top, now I know that's a third down. And if I move it down again, that'll be a third down. So from that point right there, I'm going to draw out my next 2 lines. But at what angle do I want to have those lines? Back to the fact that this has got to be some precise geometry for my snowflakes. I'll come over here to this and I'll look, and it tells us that it's at 30 degrees. 30 degrees right there. And this one, it tells us it's at 150 degrees. That one's going to be at 90. So if I want to figure drawing a straight line, and we're at what was that height of that? That's 15 millimeters. All right, so I'm going to do a 15 millimeter line. Come on, line. $15 millimeters, and I'm going to rotate it 60 degrees. Why 60? Because see how now those are parallel. That's parallel to that. Well, this measures at 30 degrees, and here from 90, the difference between 30 and 90 is the 60 degree to get that 60 degree angle. So that was rotated to 60 degrees. I'm going to bring it up here to that intersection right there. And I probably actually want to make it a little bit longer than 15 millimeters. So I'm going to undo, and we'll do it 25. Sorry, 25. And now rotate it 60 degrees and put that right there. Pop it in that corner. There. And now I will Control D, duplicate it, mirror it, and pop it in there. Now I'll use my tool that I've designed to give me my thirds and move that to where, oh, come on, grab it, position it right there. And there's my next third. And now if that was 25, I'll do, let's try a 45 millimeter line. That was 40, 45. Rotate it to 60 degrees and pop it in there. And that's going to be too long. I don't want it to extend past this point here. So let's do 30. And rotate it to 60 degrees. And that's not quite long enough, so we'll do 35. And rotate it to 60 degrees. And that looks like that's better. Those look like they were kind of symmetrical or end at about the same point if that was draw a straight line from there to there. So Control D, duplicate that, flip it, and then drag it. I'm on now, mouse. Thank you. There. Drag it there and snap it in place. I can get rid of my tool that I use for thirds. And there's the beginning, the base of my snowflake. All I need to do now is join these up. Select that one and select this one and hit Alt-J. Alt-J for join, and that just connected those two. And you can tell that it worked because if you look right now, if I hold Shift and select that, you see my ants are running towards each other to the middle. As soon as I hit Alt-J, this line changed directions, and now they're all running in the same direction. So those are now joined. So if I hold both of those and go to my and group them, and now hold Shift and select my straight line and go to my circular array. And this time I'm going to do 6 copies. And now I've got that shape. And that's even closer to my snowflake. If I select the entire thing. Now this is where everything I've done so far has been, and I've done this quite a few times, but I haven't memorized those links, and that's why I was trial and error. And also, you know, I'm going to show you another trick here in a minute. Depending on what you want your outcome to be, you can change that outcome drastically by changing those links of those shapes. Links of those first 3 lines or 2 lines. But once you've got this basic shape here, this is where I'm going to intentionally screw this up, because I want you to see what if by not thinking far enough ahead, you can mess up your entire piece. With this whole thing selected, I'm going to go to my offset tool, and I'm going to do, if I say I want to do it to where it's the thickness of each of those crystals or veins of the crystals, whatever the snowflake, I want it to be 4 millimeters wide. That's looking like that's not going to look that great. So, okay, we'll back it back down. 3 don't look terrible. 2 looks more like a snowflake. Let's do 2.5. And that's a 2.5. And there they're starting to touch. So I'm like, I don't know. Let's do 2. That's better. And I deleted my original. And so there's a snowflake. Now, by not thinking about this far enough down the path, as far as how are these going to interlock and what material thicknesses are you going to be working with, this design may or may not work at this size at 100 millimeters. And for those who are not familiar with millimeters, I'm not sorry, that's not 100 millimeters. It was, 100 millimeters. It's about 3.5 inches, right at 4 inches in width and height. But I'm doing these small little snowflake pieces. And if I'm wanting to interlock these, measuring it from here to here, and that middle, that's 4 millimeters. That was my offset, a 4 millimeter offset. If I'm going to be doing making it out of 3 millimeter wood, which is some of the smallest you might want to use, now you don't have any place to cut out your interlocking slot. So because if you've got a slot that's going to run down the middle of it, that needs to be 3 millimeters wide. Unlock our aspect ratio. We're going to make it 100 for right now. When you put that in the center to cut that out, you don't have enough left over out here for it not to be too fragile, or it's going to be extremely fragile to interlock. So that's why I say when you're designing this, you need to be thinking far enough down the path. Okay, well, yeah, that could be problematic with the design because I need to do this. And if you're thinking that far ahead, then you save yourself a whole lot of undo. Let's see here. Well, shame on you, Brad. I'm glad you made it, but you haven't missed a whole lot. Who you calling the snowflake? I can't do Clint. So by thinking about this far enough down the path, you can prevent a lot of these, like I said, having to undo and restart. So if especially, all right, well, I'm working with 3 millimeter wood, and you're going to make an intersecting part, be it, and here it's extremely crucial because of where you're doing your intersection down the middle of, and I've already glued these together, so I can't pull them apart to show you. There's no room down that middle to change that up. If you were doing a deer, it wouldn't be quite as important because you're going to be intersecting your two pieces right through the body of the deer, and there's no fragile piece there. But think about your design, think about your material as you're putting your design together, and it may keep you from going, once you've got it all cut out and you go to assemble it, and it won't work. Okay, so going back. So if I need to have at least a 3 millimeter piece here, then whenever I'm doing I'm going to undo all the way back. There we go. To there. Whenever I do my offset, I need to have that where I'm going to have I know I've got a 3 millimeter gap down the middle, and I want to have a minimum of 2 on either side. So that's 3, 4, 5. That's what? 7 millimeters minimum. And am I in millimeters? Yep, I'm still in millimeters. So that don't work. But that's either side. So I need to go offset, go outward, and then we're going to 2 and 2 is 4, so 3.5. There we go. That'd give me a 7 millimeter offset, and with a 3 millimeter gap down the middle. But that doesn't look good with that size of that snowflake. So I can just say cancel, and I can just start making my snowflake bigger with my base size. And let's see, let's lock this, and let's just take this to 100 and 120. There we go. And now if I do my offset and I do 3.5, I've still got some connectivity going on up here at the top, and that wouldn't necessarily be a problem if I'm going to put this in a encompass it in a circle. But now, in order for this not to be too fragile and make it an interlocking piece, this has gone from being 100 millimeters tall to being 137, 144 wide, or 5 inches. It's a big snowflake. And the one I've got that behind me here on my laser, I cut it out, I think at, let's not think, let's measure it. I think I did it 4 inches. Yeah, 4 inches. So that was 4 inches. So those are some things to think about when you're doing that. Now, once you've got this basic design here, if you want to leave that as it is and make this an interlocking piece like the one I just showed you, then you're going to take your material thickness, draw you out a rectangle, and we're going to make it the width 3 millimeters. I'm in inches. Let's go back to millimeters. 3 millimeters. And now you need to do half of your height. And if we click this and see the height is 137 millimeters, then this needs to be, with the aspect ratio unlocked, 137 millimeters divided by 2, 6850. Now with that there, select it, center it up, and put it to the top. Duplicate it, Control D, and send it to the bottom. Take your snowflake, Control D, duplicate that. With that duplication selected, select the top rectangle and hit subtract. Over here, Boolean subtract A from B. Now, select your snowflake again, hold your shift button and select your bottom one and hit subtract. And you should have, I did not get the other dummy. Got to go back. I got the same snowflake. So let's select that snowflake, move it off. There's our one with the slot in the top. Now I can select the bottom snowflake, hold my shift button, select that and subtract it. And now I've got two pieces that will interlock with each other. Or you could have done it this way. Because what have I said all the time? There's always the one way to do things in Lightburn, and that's the Hobo way. Wrong. You can do this so many different ways, it's not even funny. So there's one snowflake. I'm going to delete one of those. There's one rectangle. So hold shift, select that, hit subtract. Not that one, dummy. I did it in the wrong order. Snowflake, A, subtract B. And now Control D, duplicate it, move it over here and rotate it up 180. And there you go. There's your two different pieces that interlocked each other. And you've got the beginnings of a Christmas ornament, except now you don't have any way to hang it. Well, just come up here, draw you out a circle. Centered up over that. And weld those two together. And then put you another circle right in there. And there's where you can put your hanging apparatus, your rope, your filament, whatever, your hook, whatever you need to put in there. And now that will slide down on top of that. And you've got a place to hang that and decorate it. or painted up. Now, something that I tried for the first time preparing these was, and someone had used this in the camping sign. They had the glitter spray paint. I never seen that before. Never paid it any attention before. Well, I went and got some, and this was the Krylon glitter spray, and that's glitter spray paint, and it looks okay, but it's not really user friendly. It's really, really messy, and it's quite expensive. I was hoping to try the Rust-Oleum. I'm a Rust-Oleum guy. I like my Rust-Oleum products, but these were the Krylons, and I didn't like how it worked. And I don't know if the Rust-Oleum would be any better. The finished piece was okay, spray painted and glittered up, but it was quite messy and quite expensive. And I guess with a little time, I might get better results with it, more practice, but it's not going to change the fact that it was quite expensive and very, very messy. But these, I just spray painted white and then put a clear on them, and they look fine. All right, so that was one version of that snowflake. If we go back, and I'm not going to draw that all over, I'm just going to take it back to where I had the basic snowflake. There. And now if I want to put that in a globe or a circle, then I need to know how big is my piece. This is 137, and it's not exactly circular. The width is 144 and the height is 137. I'm going to make it symmetrical. Let me say 137. Now I'm 137 by 137. So if I use my circle or ellipse tool and draw a 137 millimeter circle, and center that up, I can stretch it out a little bit. I need it to overlap. And by looking at that, I probably would have been better off to leave that a little asymmetrical and not made it. So there we go. Put that back to width. Now I'm going to draw out my circle, 137. And center that up. Leaving a little bit of overlap. Karen, I would not. I've used the glitter stock, the glitter cardstock before, but I would always glue it to my wood first, then flip it over and cut the wood with the glitter stock down. I wouldn't want to try and cut this with pre-painting the glitter, because it's going to cause the laser to want to refract and bounce around and do all kinds of crazy things. It could definitely affect the cutting ability and also wanting to make the laser dance around the room. I painted mine after the fact. Now back to the circle. I've got the circle here, and this actually might help you before you do the offset, because right now, where a lot of you get lost with trying to weld pieces together, like, okay, I want to do an offset and I want to have it so that the outer ring is 6 millimeters. I didn't want to delete the original one. Turn that off. Offset 6 millimeters. Do not delete. Say okay. And now I need to attach this to this. So you're like, okay, that, and you weld it together. Well, that ain't what you want. Well, if you go back to you have just that first piece, you got that circle and you got your snowflake. When you look at it from that point of view and you say, okay, if this piece was on the blue layer, and it's a solid disc, solid piece of material. It's a solid piece of paper. And I want to get my snowflake out of that blue paper. Well, how do you do that? You need to cut that out of the blue paper in order to have that. So how do you cut it? You subtract it. So by seeing those two pieces and thinking of it that way, so okay, well, I'm gonna select my disc. Now hold my shift button and select my snowflake, and I'm going to subtract it. And that gives me that. And so if you think of it that way, go back and go ahead and get your 6 millimeter out, say offset. Do not delete. Now select your disc, hold your shift, select that, and subtract. And now you have that piece that's ready to cut out, and it look like a snowflake. And if you want to make this have a nice little hanging piece on it, you can do this kind of like the old Christmas balls. Come up here. In fact, you'd want to go ahead and do your intersecting pieces and duplications. And then, because you only need your hanging piece on one, draw your little rectangle. Center it up. And go ahead and bring it down to where you don't have that gap right there. That works. Now that plus this welded together. And I'm going to put a little radius on it. How long is that piece? That's 21 millimeters. So I'll do a radius of 3 millimeters right there and right there. And now I'll draw out a circle and a circle within that circle, not that, that. Center those up, move it up a little bit. Now I don't have them grouped, but I'm going to put them on the center line. There we go. And now just select the outer circle plus that, weld it together. And now I've got a little Christmas ball. And if I had done my duplication and my second piece with the interlocking lines, then, and this would be the only one that needs that, and that would be ready to put your line through and hang up. Now let's see here. Looking at comments. Got Karen. Yeah, I would not do the pre-painting of the glitter paint. Question. I would pre-paint the tree green, then use clear. That's a tongue twister. Clear glitter glue or clear glitter paint, and do it after the cutting. Yeah, and I got some of the clear Krylon that I was going to try and do the clear glitter over the white spray paint. And I think before I condemn that glitter spray, I need to try something besides the Krylon, because I'm not been a big fan of Krylon. I like my Rust-Oleum stuff. But pre-painting these versus painting them after the fact is, I did not pre-paint any of this stuff. I like it because I knew I was going to be painting it solid colors. I knew I was going to be painting it white. I knew I was going to be painting it green. I even got some red, and I didn't do one red. And since I'm going to be painting them after the fact, by not pre-painting them, once I cut it all out, then I could take and clean it all up real good, remove all the residues, and clean up any burn marks and all that, sand it down, get it nice and smooth, and then put my paint on there and not have to worry about messing up the pre-painted paint job. Come on. There we go. Nope. The heck with it. Glitter glue over Rust-Oleum looks pretty good. Yeah, I've not messed with glitter glue. That's something else I'll have to look into. Uh, but the next thing I want to try is try the Rust-Oleum glitter spray and see if it just doesn't give better results. Now, what I want to show you, I showed you 2 cases of doing the snowflakes, the one that's just by itself, the one in a globe. But now I'm going to show you how easy it is to do this Christmas tree. Same principle applies about doing the slot down the middle, top and bottom. But here, of course, you're not able to do one and then flip it because it's not symmetrical, like the circle. But I'm going to show you the best way to make sure that your design is symmetrical and not an asymmetrical Christmas tree to where you got really heavy boughs on this side and skinny ones on this side, or minimizing any irregularities within your Christmas tree. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab my polygon tool, and I'm not going to hold my shift button. I'm just going to draw out a polygon. And now I'm going to right click on my polygon and show properties. And that's going to show me my shape properties over here. I had my shape properties tab already open. I could have just clicked on that, but I wanted to show you how you can open it. And if you come up here to your Windows menu and come down to shape properties, if you don't already have it on, that's where you turn it on. And now with the polygon starts out as a 6-sided shape. Then I'm going to come over here and change it to a 3-sided shape. Now I've got a triangle. It's upside down. It's okay. I'll just hit my mirror up here. Now I've got it upright. I don't like, if that was going to be the silhouette of my Christmas tree, it's not the shape I want it to be. So I'm going to draw it up some, and maybe I'll draw it in some. Like, okay, that's getting closer to what I want it to look like, except I don't want a triangle. All right. Once I've put all the thought into it and figured out what size I want it to be, because right now, that's going to be, that would actually probably work, because I had to Control D, duplicate it, and bring it down. Yeah, that's not too tall to where I couldn't get a series of them across there. But if you didn't think about that in advance and you just went and said, okay, that's the shape I want, but you did it at that size, well, now that's too big to get multiples out of there. But that's the shape and the size I want. Now I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to convert to a path. Go to my nodes. Now that I've got my nodes turned on, I've only got 3 nodes because there's only 3 points. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start down here at close to the bottom. And I'm going to use the letter M for middle. And I'll put a node up there in the middle. And I'll do it again. It's going to middle that and do it again. It's going to middle that. Then I'll come up here so I can get it in there and come up here to the top and just middle, and then one more here. Like, okay, that looks pretty good. I think that's an appropriate number of boughs for my Christmas tree, limbs. So let's take a look. And how am I going to transform this to my Christmas tree? Well, instead of putting any more nodes in here, I'm just going to go up here on this line, kind of toward the bottom. And then I'm going to left click on that line and drag that out, creating the curve that I want it to be. Then I'll come down here, do the same thing. And just keep repeating this. Oh, got to get on the line. And if they're not quite symmetrical or you don't like the spacing, you always go back and change those, move them around, drag them up and down, make them stretch them out longer, skinnier, fatter. I don't want to drag them there. I want to drag them there. There we go. And now I've got that side of the tree done. Now, how in the world am I going to get this side of the tree to look exactly like that side of the tree? Because I just did that by eyeball and kind of made it look good. Well, I ain't gonna worry about that side of the tree. All I'm gonna do is come over here to my rectangle tool, come up here to the top of my tree, right there where I got an intersection, come down until I've encompassed that, come back to my selector tool, and now I'll select my tree and select my rectangle. And I'm like, well, which Boolean tool do I need to use? I have no idea. I'm gonna hit Control B. Control B for Boolean assistant, and that's going to bring up my Boolean assistant. That's not the result I want. That's not what I want, but that is. And so I'll say okay, and hit Control D to duplicate it. Use my mirror to flip it over, slide it over here to the other side, then align it. No, not that way, dummy. Alt-Shift-H for horizontal alignment. Now those are perfectly mirrored to each other. And if I weld them up, now that's gone. And I've got a very symmetrical Christmas tree. I don't really like the base down here, but that's okay. I'll select it and go back to my node editing. And I can just simply come over here and drag that up. And if I want to put a little tree trunk on there, you could. I did not put one on the one that I made, but you could put a trunk on there, weld that together once you put it in the center. And now you got a perfectly symmetrical Christmas tree. And then you would do the same thing to create your slots, but this one, because you cannot do one, you do need to do two, because you can't just rotate this or flip it over. So use your material, not that, dummy. Use your rectangle tool. If you're using 3mm material, 3mm wide. How tall is that Christmas tree? That Christmas tree is 141. In fact, we're just going to tell it to 142. So I've got easy numbers to work with. 142. So this needs to be 142 divided by 2. Put it in the top center. Control D, duplicate it, put it at the bottom. Now duplicate the tree, I've got it selected. Hold my shift button, select that, do my subtraction. Now move it over here, and now hold that and select that and subtract. And now I've got two halves that will intersect with each other, and that'll glue up and make you a interlocking Christmas tree. And since this piece is the one that doesn't have the slot in the top, this will slide down from the top of this one and on. So this would be the piece that you would put your hanger on. And in this case, you probably, you know what, you say, let's do a star. And some of you may remember how to draw a star. Hold your shift key and draw out a perfect polygon. Select it, right click, show properties, and change it to a 5-sided piece. Flip it over. Grab your pencil tool. Draw a straight line from there to there to each one of your corner nodes. Then do a 0 offset, deleting the original. And you can get rid of your polygon, pentagon. And now you got you a star, and put that up here. Now this would be fragile, and that's not quite centered up. So I'm going to put that. If I put it right there at that point and then brought it down and then weld it. And then you could, if you wanted to put a circle on top of your star and make you a hanger. That would work. Oh, okay. I see some. This is like Hallmark Channel Christmas in July. Yeah. Isn't that all Hallmark ever does? Is either all angel movies. She loves him. They finally fall in love, and then Christmas is all they do, isn't it? But hey, this is better than Hallmark. I, hmm, I haven't done any in a while, but if I was going to do any made for TV stuff right now, Hallmark's about one of the only channels I would probably feel comfortable doing any work for. Let's see here. All right. Now, something else to think about. I was telling you about trying to think ahead, and when you're doing the interlocking pieces and how your design's going to be. And if you're needing it to be a 3mm piece for your 3mm wood, if you're making it out of the larger stuff, 4.5mm or bigger, then you got to, okay, well, you really got to have some extra width. But another thing to think about is scaling. When you do these designs like this, you want to design them in the smallest as small a design as possible to look good, because you can always scale it up and you're not going to run into headaches. But if you scale it down, it's not going to always work for that very reason. Also, if I did, in fact, let's see here, import, file, recent projects, recent, we'll do here. No. All right, so these are the 3 designs that I just did. The tree, the 2 different snowflakes. And I want to, right now, this piece is at 120mm or right at 4.5 inches, 4 3/4 inches tall. If I bring this piece over here and I'm saying, you know what, that's way too big. This year I went with a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, and the Charlie Brown Christmas tree is only about 3 feet tall, and it's only about 1.5 feet wide. So I don't need, a great big snowflake. It only needs to be about, 2.5, 3 inches. So if I say, okay, well, I want to log my aspect ratio, and I want to make it 75mm in height. Well, now when I look at my width of my slot, that's only 1.87mm wide. Well, I can ungroup this. Well, I don't even need to ungroup it, I don't think. If I go to resize slots and resize tools, resize slots and selection, 1.87 slot width. Well, it's not going to recognize it because it is grouped. I thought because maybe, but ungroup it all. Tools, resize slots and selection, slot width. Now it's recognizing my slot width, but I need it to be 3mm, and I tell it apply. See what happened? It got really, really thin there. And if I measure that distance, it's 4/10 of a millimeter. It's not even 1/2 of a millimeter wide. So you need to think about that. So that's another reason when I'm designing, design small and design so that it will be successful as that small size. Then when you go scaling it up, it's not a big issue. Going up is never a problem. Scaling it down can be a problem. So who we got coming in here late? Moses coming in here late. Shame on you. I don't know what y'all doing now. Anyway. So those are 3 basic designs, and what I'm going, and I don't have anything up on Hobo with Wood this week for sale. I haven't had time to do any of that. I need to. God knows I need to, because that's revenue. But I ain't had time. Some of you are aware that I am working on renovating the shop, the house, and I've had emails asking me, "Hey, how are things coming? What's going on? How things?" I ran into not a road, kind of a roadblock, an unknown, and I'm taking out some walls, adding some doors, installing some showers, and I thought I had a load bearing wall that I needed to modify pretty drastically. And if I wasn't careful, then I could have potential roof collapse, because I don't have the house is not built on a foundation. The house is built on pillars all around the exterior, and then pillars randomly across the center of the house. So if this was a load bearing wall, and this 4x4 I was concerned about was a load bearing 4x4, then in order for that to be successful in this house, it had to be sitting on a pillar down below. And if I took that 4x4 out and I went in and put a header up here, that's fine. I can put a header up there, but then I needed to come down at the bottom and almost have a bottom header that then come to a point where I could grab and go in the center of that and put it right back on that pillar again, because that header would extend out beyond that pillar, because the pillars are only about a 1 foot square pillar. So, and that 4x4 would have been positioned right on top of that. And so it's like, ah! Well, after enough studying and checking, and the problem is this is not, the house is, Greg, always expect issues with remodeling. And the problem, this house was built in 1900. And so ain't nothing about it like what you'd expect it to be. And it was built with real rough cut lumber, potentially even processed on site, but rough cut lumber, no foundations, 2 foot center walls. But it's the roof on, in fact, I'll show you the house here. The roof is not your typical roof switch there. Here and here and here. So that's the roof on the house. It's a pitch, it's got that gable. That's not a big deal, but back here is where I'm doing the modifications, and it's in this back corner from inside this door to the corner of the house back here. I'm gutting all that out and taking some walls down and adding some walls and putting in showers. I'm like, where's the load at? Well, with this roof the way it is, it's coming down. All the load is coming out and then radiates from that peak out to the exterior wall. And then on the back side of the house, like here, is just like this. It radiates from here out to the exterior wall on the back of the house. So none of the walls back there at all are load bearing. All of the load is on the outside walls, which is excellent. Now I know I can just go in and start knocking down walls, cutting out saws on, and then I ain't got to worry about none of that stuff. No, Chris, I have not mapped the pillars of this. And no, Connie, that's not my address. It's close to my address, but that's not my address. I did not map the pillars of this floor plan, because in order to do so, that would probably require me to go under the house. I ain't doing that. I ain't going under this house. I ain't going under that crawl space for nada, for nothing. I'll do all the interior. I'll do all the demolishing. I'll do all the framing, do all that. And then, but when it comes time to go under the house and help plumbing, and goes, I've got the water supplies there, but I need to come from the the sink supplies over to the shower supplies, which is only going to be about a 3-foot span. And I'll do that coming up through the floor. I ain't going under the house to do that. If I have to pay a plumber, which I got family that can go do it if they've got time, but if they don't have time, I will pay a plumber to go under the house and do that. I ain't going under that crawl space. Well, yeah. I don't have one, and since I'm not going under there to do any of that, and it's not been needed. I don't need to have those pillars mapped out, because fortunately it's not everything I'm doing is non-load bearing, and it's not going to be an issue. But here I'll show you what we're doing. What I'm trying to do. Go back here, and no, that's not my address. It's close. That's not my address. And go back to Lightburn here. All right, so there's kind of what the roof looks like. Over here is that the side of the house you're just looking at. Well, there's an existing wall that runs here like that, and there's one that goes back here. This right here used to be an actual enclosed storage room, and this was the back porch of the house, and they enclosed this already. But this was an original storage room that was on the house that someone turned into a half bath. So there's a toilet here and a sink here. And I'm going to take this wall out, and not out. I'm going to modify that wall and take this wall and move it out to about there. And let's turn that off and turn this on. There we go. So I'm going to do it like that. And then bring a shower in here and bring a door entry in from here. This is the door. There'll be a door here, goes outside. So I've got to move that wall out, move this wall out, put a shower in here. And with moving, go back to those, show those. Those are the existing walls. And I was just concerned that those being low, if they were load bearing, I was going to be a headache, but they're not. Let's see here. Go back here. So for those who've been curious where the progress, because I've been sharing with my patrons on Patreon some of the photos and the process, the progress, and things have kind of come to a grinding stop when I figured that out. Well, now I'm starting to go tearing stuff out again, and there'll be more updates on that. Yeah, use the Lasermatic to cut out the new openings. Yeah, no. And it's not so much the small spaces for me, Chuck. I'm not claustrophobic, and I don't feel like I'm hemmed in with small. I ain't going under the house because of all the critters. I don't care for any of the creepy crawlies, any of the snakes are probably not that likely here because I'm in the middle of the city. Not impossible, but not likely. But more creepy crawlies, bugs, spiders, insects, and even potentially rodents. I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. All right, guys. Oh, and thank you, Moses. I didn't see that. Thank you. Very much appreciated. So this, I'm going to continue to develop some of these designs, and I will end up getting more and more ornaments set up. I had done a lot for last year. I'll do a lot more, and I will get some ornament packs over on hobowithwood.com. But these are really, really simple to do. You create one design, and then you put a slice halfway up the bottom and halfway down from the top, and then interlock, and you got a nice 3D piece. It's simple, easy to do, and you can do it not just with the snowflake. You could do it with even that one there. There's a deer right there. If you had a silhouette of a deer and you cut half of them off and half off the top, and you could slide that together. And if you put it together right, well, then you got the head that then turns and you comes out his butt. So you're looking at it. You're going to have a deer all the way across, and or a deer that come down and turned up. So you can do those interlocking pieces with different types of designs and get different results. But I wanted to show you how easy it was to draw those snowflakes. And you know what we got? We got an hour and 10. I told you I was going to show you how varying those sides would make a difference. And I want to do that because we're only an hour 10 in. Santa, elves, sleigh. Yeah, any of those things. You can put any of those in there. You just have to make sure that when you slide them together that that you don't end up with anything inappropriate with the way they interlock with each other. Because I could see the potential there where if you got some things interlocking in ways that you might could put Santa in some compromising positions if you didn't have everything lined up right. All right, let's go back over to the other light burn back here because I want to show you this. In fact, I've got this over here. We're going to get rid of all of that because this one is like the one you seen me draw original, where these come together, and when you do your offset, you end up with something like that. But if you do a piece, and I'm just going to draw this out really quick. And I'm going to do this by eyeball instead of getting the thirds. Rotate it 60 degrees. Duplicate it. Flip it. And before, what I was striving to do is, in fact, I'll do this on a toolpath. If I grab a toolpath and then a pencil. On that first design, my goal was to have all of these radiating lines come out and end at about the same point. But if we take it, in fact, come on, I want to do that. Do this, do this. I brought it way out there. Duplicate it and flip it. I'm on. And then do a circular array of that 6 times. By extending those out, you get that result. Okay. And so you got 2 completely different looks just by changing the length of those lines that you put out there. And I've got, let's see, where, art library. way back, way back in the day. Snow, snow, snow. Where I can't smell snow. There you go. These are some that I think came from another library from a different forum, and you can see all the different shapes that were created. But these are a little bit problematic when you're trying to do cutouts because there's offsets of offsets. And if I put that in line mode, you'll see them. See all the different lines and layers. So that's not suited well for doing the cutouts for Christmas ornaments. You have to go in and eliminate a lot of it. But all of those different shapes are basically 6-pointed, or 3 lines has been rotated, and then varying the lengths of the different lines to create how far they overlap and how far the crystals protrude from one or the other. So by just varying the lengths of those lines and then doing your offsets, you can get some really radically different looking snowflakes without a whole lot of work. Let's see here. All right. I was trying to think of anything else. Oh, did everybody catch have a chance to watch the Thursday's video on optimizing selected shapes? That is a really good tool to use for cleaning up your traces, getting rid of those strange juts where the trace doesn't come out really clean. If you haven't watched that, you need to go watch that optimize selected shapes video. That is a really good video. Yeah, mirrored acrylic. If you've got the ability, you've got a CO2 and you can do some acrylics. These, the snowflakes look really good in acrylic. You could probably get away with a thicker spine down the center. I would keep I'll keep all of my spines the same thickness just because of the geometry of the snowflake. The snowflake's not going to have a thicker, not in real world. And let's see here. Some of you saying you're having buffering problems, and now Dale's saying no volume. Anybody else having no volume? And now, well, it's the same Dale. Dale, you said I buffered, and now you're saying no volume. I don't think anybody else is having a problem, Dale. Yeah, and that's another thing that Chris says he optimizes the files after downloading them, and that can actually cut down on his burn times. Yeah. Yeah, nobody else is having sound issues, Dale. So, all right. Anybody any questions, any headaches, any problems? We're an hour and 20. I'm gonna go take a hammer to a wall. Problems, questions? Anybody got any? The video for the optimizing selected shapes. Let me turn that off. Don't go away. That Thursday's video was a request. So is there something that somebody needs explanation on or would like to see explained? Any subject matter you'd like to delve into? Anybody? Well, you are so blessed. Emma says, no problems at all. Well, I don't want to jinx you, but you are a blessed individual to have no problems. All right, guys. I'm gonna go play Demo Man. I'm gonna go get rid of some frustration. Thank you guys for hanging out this Saturday afternoon, and for a lot of us, it's a whole lot more comfortable just sit here and goof off in front of the computer instead of having to do anything out in this heat. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you. Guys, I'm going to jump, and I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to continue to develop some of these. And I seen one online that I kind of thinking about tinkering with. It's where they had taken a round Christmas ornament, and it was a ball, and it had a lower half and the upper half. It was done, similar to this, but the back side of it had a little hinge in it to where you could take the top of it and open the top of that ball, and you could actually place something in it, really like stocking stuffers or whatever. You can put it in the ball instead, and that would hinge up and close and latch, and you could hang it on the tree, and it'd be a small little gift inside the ornament. What do y'all think about something like that? Yeah, I don't need anybody to babysit the lasers. Connie says that's awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to play with it a little bit and see. It's not that dissimilar of a concept that I did for the Easter egg, where I had the pieces that are interlocking with each other and they snap together and the egg went inside. But this will put a two hemispheres that are hinged together. And the hinge is what's giving me reservation. When you're working with really, really thin material and those hinges, like the hinges that were done in the Gravini box for the popcorn holder that had the hinged lid, those types of hinges, they tend to be a little fragile depending on the material and the size of and with something that's going to be a small 3-inch hemisphere that's hinged out of 3mm material. I just seen it being potentially very, very fragile. Yeah, Robert saying have people check their and subscribe again, and I was you were subscribed and unsubscribed. What'd you do? Huh? Have people check their subscription again, and I was unsubscribed from you. Okay, so apparently Robert's been losing some of his subscriptions. So I didn't know that was an issue. Just check your subscriptions and make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. If you're not, hit that subscription button, the like button, the share button. I greatly appreciate it. You wasn't here at Easter. I got it right here. I'll grab it. Oh, my. So this was a little Easter bunny that I did for doing, little Easter egg with a candy in them. And this one was the little girl. And I did one that was blue, or I did the ears different. I did floppy ears. And I said, that was the little boy. This is the little girl. But these pieces, the way that they're interlocked together, would be kind of similar to the way I would do the hemispheres where they'd be hinged. So I was like, okay, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I've kind of already done a little bit of that. The difference is making it in two hemispheres instead of just one solid piece. Maybe a couple of heavier jump rings might work. I got a lot of jump rings. Yeah. You know, Chris says he's doing some parametric ornaments that would be interesting. Send me some pics of what you're doing, man. Hobowithwood at gmail.com. I have to make my granddaughter a fairy house. Maybe you can make one on live. Do a fairy house. I haven't made any fairy houses, and I'm guessing you're talking about an actual little house. Did you maybe you can put it outdoors for the fairies to live in? I don't know. Uh, uh, I'd be afraid that would. I'd be afraid that'd turn into a real nightmare. And I don't want to have to worry about lighting and cameras and all that. I just want to go in there and start slinging hammers and taking out walls. And like I said, if you're a patron, they've seen some videos that you guys aren't sharing. I'm not sharing everything with everybody on YouTube, but my patrons, because I am at this point, I am reliant on my patrons to survive. So I'm grateful for them and their support, and so I keep them in the loop as much as probably as much or more than in some cases than I do family. Uh, and I seen somebody say something here about a lighted. Yeah, there we go. Connie says a light up ornament would be awesome. Uh, and I thought about, and I've got some of the light strands here, and they actually make those. Hallmark makes them, and a few other places have made them where they're designed so you can take one of your bulbs from your strands and insert a bulb in there and it light up. And I thought about, okay, well, that wouldn't be too difficult to do, to make it to where you could integrate it with your existing light strand. Da, da, da. Henry said, put a tea light. Okay, I missed that comment. All right, so we're 128 in, and I hope you found this a little bit informative. Like I said, it was more of a little bit of the creative process and what to think about. Design small, and you can always go up. But when you start here and you need to come down, that's going to create problems. I've told you that more than once. There's always more than one way to do things in Lightburn. Think about the size of your material that you're going to be working with, and when you're doing this, okay, well, because if you design it and it works out great, but you can only get 3 pieces out of one piece of material, you can, and a lot of waste then left after it. Then you said, you know what? If I'd have maybe made that 30% smaller, I could have gotten more out of it, less waste. But like I said, it's harder to go down than it is to go up. So think about all those things in there. Christmas Village. Yeah, that farm scene kicked my butt. I don't know about. In fact, I think my mother might have even suggested a nativity scene. She's never in these, and I don't know if she's watching them in the background or not, but she'd said something about she'd seen the barn and she's like, oh, well, that'd be kind of neat. And she said, oh, maybe like a nativity scene. Yeah, and then same thing there. Yeah. Um, that's not an impossibility. Right now, my head's on fire with everything I got going on, and I got to go get an extinguisher now and go use that extinguisher to knock a hole in the wall. uh All right, guys. I'm gonna get out of here. You guys have a great weekend. Stay cool. Stay hydrated if you have to get outside. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for your support. Thank you to all my patrons for being there and being in my corner. And I'm gonna go sling a hammer. So I'm hitting the end stream now, and we'll see how long it takes for it to actually end, because it does go on and on and on, and finally